Écoute mon cœur, où es-tu maintenant? Il s'agit d'attendre toute ma vie.
This hands down the most powerful build that we have right here in Lies of P. There's many amazing things about this little thing that we have right here. And it's just basically a stick. Yeah, what do you know? The strongest, most OP, most powerful build in the entire game. It's just a stick, an electric stick, and that's it. And actually that's the name of the weapon. It's a stick. What do you want? It's just amazing. Now, I've done several playthroughs of this game. I have tried technique weapons, I have tried motivated weapons, I have tried so many things, and this is hands down the most powerful of them all that I have tried. One cool thing is that you can get this weapon as soon as you begin the game, which you're going to get from a merchant very early on the game, so you don't really need to have to wait that much to have the build established on itself. So that's one cool thing, that you can have just this thing as soon as you start the game. That's amazing. Let's talk about the weapon and why is it so amazing. First and foremost, the weapon is going to have tremendous amounts of posture damage, but it's also going to deal electric shock damage. There are not so many enemies that are going to be resistant to it. As a matter of fact, it's just one early game boss. Yes, it is a skill check boss if you're new to the game and you're struggling. That is going to make you struggle, but I was able to beat him no problem with this thing. If you want to use a different weapon for that boss, that's something that you can do, and as a matter of fact, we are a advanced belts, so we're going to have different elements, so there is indeed that. That being said, shock. What it does is that it increases the damage that the enemy takes, and it also increases the stagger potential, so you can be staggering enemies with this thing so many times. Now, I know that a lot of people is going to say that there's a whole bunch of different better advanced weapons, and that is something that I did want to mention, that I've seen a lot of people saying that advanced is really not efficient, it is not as good as dexterity or strength builds, but no. I have tried them all, I have used different weapons, there really is nothing as broken and powerful as this thing. This is the really easy mode of the game. I was able to defeat all of the bosses in one try just using this stick. It is that powerful. That said, what it makes so amazing is the head of the stick, the upper side of the stick, which has the fable art that is called Generate. And what Generate does is that it increases the amount of damage that you deal, but also it increases the stagger potential of the weapon. So you generate and you use the stagger, you use the heavy charge attack, and ideally in 2 charge attack that is going to be more than enough to cause a fatal strike. The handle, it has the weapon art that the handle has is the rush smash. And that is amazing because more often than not, if you use it on an electrified enemy, it's always going to cause them to stagger, so you're always going to have that critical guaranteed right there. As a combo, if you pair it up with some little things that we're going to discuss later on with the P organs, it's going to break it even more. But the highlights is that you always have electric shock damage available. The enemy is always receiving more damage. You can buff your weapon to increase that damage, and also you can charge the heavy attacks to deal that posture damage, and it's not going to cost the entire fight like the rest of the builds and weapons to cause that stagger. In reality, with this thing, you're going to be staggering enemies in just like 3 hits, and that's it. So you don't really have to worry about those very difficult elites enemies around there in the world, because this thing just melts them. It just melts them in a couple of hits. That's how powerful this little thing is. So let's talk about the stats, and I'm going to guide you through everything that you need to do as you level up if you're planning to start a new playthrough using this thing. The most important thing would be to raise up your advance all the way to 20, because that's when the soft cap happens. 20-25, that's when the soft cap for the damage happens. After that, you do not get that much returns into the element's attack, and as you can see right here, you're not going to receive that much elemental upscaling attack. What this is going to do is that it is going to increase the elemental attack of your Legion arms, which is going to be a huge important part of your arsenal with these builds. I do want to have this thing in 40 because this, like I said that increases the Legion arm. But like I said early on, as you're leveling up, you should get this by the second boss that you find in the game. This thing should be by 20, and then you're going to increase this bad boys evenly to 15. So after you have this thing on 20, it's going to be 15, 15, 15. Then you can raise this thing to 30, and then you can raise 20, 20, and 20, 15, and 15. After that, you're going to be on the end game, and you should be focusing on getting the advance to 40, the vitality on 30, which is going to be more than enough. That's just all of the vitality that you need, at least for the first playthrough. Vigor, some people like to have in 15, I like to have in 20, there's that. And then capacity, I'm just increasing this evenly that much more. And as a matter of fact, if you're going to go New Game Plus, I advise for you to increase that capacity, because we're going to be using amulets that and weapons that ideally you're not going to necessarily have to be using one amulet that is causing me to be heavy right here. Talk about that a little bit later. But one thing that you need to have in mind is that you need to have enough capacity to get this thing to 50%. So that is the only power spike that your character is going to suffer to get that beyond that threshold. So there is indeed that. That said, let's talk about Legion Arm. There's 2 Legion Arms that you are going to be using, and they are going to increase their capacity, damage, and what have you by increasing the advanced stat, because they are going to scale with A. The first one is going to be Flamberg, and I advise for you to raise this bad boy. A little fan favorite that I have seen is Fulminus, but I think that this is one of the crappiest one of them all. I not advise for you to use Fulminus that much, because it really is not that amazing. This thing is going to leave you open, and that is not good. Flamberg, on the other side, this thing is going to deal fire damage. The fire damage does deal posture damage. That's amazing. That's actually quite cool. That's ideal. And you can control it, because as you are using the flamethrower, you can dodge and you can do a whole bunch of stuff. So that's actually quite nice. And then the final upgrade that this thing is going to suffer is going to be the flame explosion, which basically you can spam the Fable Arts button, being Y or triangle, depending on the controller scheme that you are using. That is going to deal that much stagger damage, and it's going to push you back to safety. So if the enemy is getting close to you, you can just immediately get out of that danger that it's closing nearby you. One amazing thing about this is that it's ideal for clearing trash around the levels. So yeah, that's actually quite amazing. We're going to be upgrading this thing as well with RP organ upgrades. But the next one that I advise for you to use, it's Pandemonium. Now Pandemonium is amazing against fighting the Spectre enemies, the human enemies, because it deals acid damage. Acid damage breaks enemies' weapon. And this thing, you can, I wouldn't advise for you to use this thing over the Flamberg. Ideally the Flamberg, it's that much more better. I like it even more. But this is ideal when you're fighting human enemies, and you can just leave the acid right there. And the final upgrade that you're going to have this thing is going to have the polymerization explosion, which is going to trigger an acid explosion that deals that much damage. You have the acid damage, and one amazing thing about this arm as well is that you can control the direction of where you're using this thing. And also it's an insta cast, so you don't have to be worrying like Fulminus to be charging this thing. So either this or Flamberg, they are amazing tools at dealing damage that is not electric, because you have all of the elements at your disposal at hand. Now P organs, this is up to your personal preference. You can choose whichever thing that you would want to have, but there are some things that are going to enhance this build that much more. One of them is going to be an endgame thing, auto charge Legion. Our Legion arm is going to be amazing. It's going to be very powerful, and you should be using it more than anything to clear trash, to make it that much viable and more easy to navigate through the levels. And if you have the auto charge Legion, you're always going to have Legion arm, so that is always going to be amazing, beautiful, delicious, and gorgeous. I also advise for you to prioritize the Fable slots 1 and 2 whenever you get the chance to get them, because these guys, they are going to increase your potential DPS with your stick. Like I said, our stick is very powerful when you're using Fable Arts, whether if it's by buffing it, whether if it's by closing the distance and dealing the stagger damage that we have with our Fable Arts. it is ideal that you always have Fable arts available, and if you're able to cast one of those buffs on your weapon and then immediately right after cast that extra damage thing, you're going to just kill those annoying elite enemies on a couple of hits. And it's going to be gorgeous, it's going to be divine, it's going to be amazing. And it is actually quite powerful and broken, and I love that. Now, on the attack type, you're going to have the increased Fable odds effect duration. You want to have as many of these things right here, because this right here, this is what it's going to increase the buff that you're going to have with your Fable art with your stick. And like I said, that buff, highly damaging. You can just immediately melt the health bar of many bosses by just purely using this thing. And since we are focusing strongly, heavily on Fable, that's amazing. Not saying that the weapon on itself, by its own, without using Fable, it's not amazing. It's still broken, it's still going to be electric damage, but this is going to break that thing a little bit more. Finally, amulets. Amulets are up to your personal preference, and I am using this thing right here because I got tired of Fury attacks. You can call me noob, you can call me casual, you can tell me to get good. I just don't enjoy Fury attacks. I have managed to learn them, I know how to counter them, but they are annoying. They make me go angry. So I ideally always use the Ghost Walk amulet not to have to be dealing with that, because I'm more of a dodger kind of guy. I did love Sekiro. I did finish Sekiro. Sekiro is one of my favorite games, but in my Souls-likes, I prefer like the Bloodborne kind of playstyle where I am dodging like a maniac. So this thing is going to allow you to do that. And ideally I always like to use the Patience Amulet, the Carrier's Amulet, because I'm using the Ghost Walk Amulet and then the Assassin's Amulet to increase the critical attack. You can also be switching this depending on your needs for the Murderer's Puppet Amulet, the Puppet Destroyer Amulet, the Carcass Destroyer Amulet, and what have you. You can have many options right here, it's up to your personal preference, and the amulets ideally are not going to change that much RPLs. And finally, just to wrap up the gist of everything, you have a very broken little thing that has access to all of the elements. And trust me, believe you me, Romeo treated me like he's... yeah, you get the idea, you know how he treated me. I spent so many times trying to defeat that guy because of that endless spin combo attack until I managed to counter with perfect guards, but it took just too much time. With this build, I was able to molest that guy because, like I said, the combination of attacks that you have with this guy, like the one that you are seeing on the screen right now, you buff your weapon, you use the Fable attack, you charge a heavy, you get that amazing, beautiful stagger attack damage, and then you rinse and repeat, you deal damage. It's just filthy. It's just filthy. I just can't stress enough how powerful this thing is, and you can use this combo to molest bosses, and trust me, they are going to fall, and they are going to fall really damn hard. As you are exploring, you can use your Legion arm to clear trash with your Flamberge. And yeah, I mean, this is hands down, I don't know, like I said, I have seen many people discussing and saying that Advanced is the less viable of them all. No, it isn't. And I can confidently say, after trying all of those builds, after trying every single weapon and combinations, this is meta. This trivializes the game. The game gets so easy by playing like this. Anyways, if you like the content, liking the super appreciated. No, I tell you today that you're a gorgeous and beautiful person. You are indeed a gorgeous and beautiful, beautiful person. I will see you goddamn gorgeous and beautiful people in the next one. A beautiful day. Goodbye.
Écoute mon cœur, je t'attendrai même.